Well, hello. We're going to do a quick recap of UFC Vegas 68. This is Saturday, February 4th. Today is Wednesday. Should have done it yesterday and just running a day late. Hopefully tomorrow I'll do the recap for the upcoming event this Saturday, February 11th, Volkanovski versus Makachev. That one is going to be in Australia, and we'll get that video out by tomorrow. So let's go over this recap, and we'll go over the winners, and then we'll go over the bets, and we'll see what worked and what didn't work. So Tetsuro Taira and Jesus Aguilar. We picked Tetsuro to win. Tetsuro did win by submission. It was one of our more sure bets. So we are correct there. Jin Young Park, the Iron Turtle, defeated Dennis Tiulin. He was our pick as well, and we had said that if he had stuck to his grappling game plan, he would win. And yes, that's exactly what happened. He took him to the ground, and he dominated him on the ground, and that's how we finished the fight. Ji Yeon Kim versus Mandy Baum. That fight, we had picked Jin Yeon Kim, but that fight was canceled. It never happened. Something, I don't know what happened, but didn't happen. So they canceled it that night. Hyung Sung Park versus Sung Guk Choi. That we had picked Hyung Sung Park, and he was a good striker, really good striker, and then he did beat Sung Guk Choi. I believe he had won by knockout. Next fight, Rihanna Nakamura versus Toshiomi Kazama. We picked Rihanna Nakamura. He was a high probability win for us, and he did win. He won by knockout. Jung Young Lee versus Zai Yi. We had picked Jung Young Lee. We thought he was an excellent striker. Of course, he was a really good striker. He got the better of the striking exchanges. Zai Yi continuously tried to take him down, went to the ground, held him. It was kind of boring, and even though Zai Yi had a lot of control time, the judges ended up giving Jung Young Lee the fight. And I'm kind of glad they did, because it was just, just because you take somebody and you hold them, I mean, they're finally stopping rewarding. They're not scoring that as high as significant damage. And it was a close split decision, but Jung Young Lee won it, he was a high probability pick for us, 55%. It was a little too close for my comfort. I was sweating there for a minute, but yeah, he ended up winning, high probability pick. And so Jubli and Jeka Saragi. We had gone over this, and Jeka was by far the more powerful striker, better striker. And so Jubli, I had seen him strike. I thought he was pretty good. Everyone kept saying that he had some kind of ground game. I actually never saw ground game in his tapes, but apparently there was some tapes out there, and I wasn't sure how good he'd be. And he did take Jeka down, and unfortunately he ended up ground and pounding him in the second round. And that's where things weren't really that great for us, because that was a high probability pick. So in the scheme that we have, the high probability picks need to come through in order for us to get the longer parlays. We could still hit the smaller parlays, but the longer parlays usually get damaged. So that was the first sign that was not going to work, or wasn't going to be a long parlay night. Yasuki Kinoshita versus Adam Fugit. This was a 50-50 plus, and Yasuki Kinoshita was a 50 plus where we had picked him. And he's young, he's 22 years old, really excellent striker. But Adam Fugit, there was something to be said about he had a lot of experience. He's 34 years old. He was well-rounded. He was good on the ground, had some decent takedowns. And we've never seen Kinoshita really face a lot of adversity like that against somebody who's as experienced as Adam Fugit. So I had put him at the back end for a reason. And sure enough, Adam Fugit ended up closing the show, ground and pound, and taking Yasuka Kinoshita out. And that was his first loss, I believe. Probably a learning lesson. He's a really young fighter. Yeah, so this is exactly what I was worried about, and it kind of came to pass. So even though Yasuka Kinoshita is probably the more talented fighter, he's definitely still got a ways to go. Next fight, Dooho Choi versus Kyle Nelson. Um, we had a 50 plus on Dooho Choi. He was coming in after a 3-year long layoff. We weren't sure how he was going to be, who he was going to be, and Kyle Nelson is a pretty strong guy, pretty well rounded, strong and durable, and so we thought, okay, this was going to be close. And this fight was close. As a matter of fact, it was a draw, majority draw. So we had 50 plus on Dooho Choi. It was a majority draw. So we, in this case, whenever there's a draw, it's a push. Basically, we don't win and we don't lose. It doesn't really affect the parlays. Marcin Tybura versus Blago Ivanov. We had picked Marcin Tybura as a 50 plus, and as things turned out, yes, he did squeak out a decision victory over Blago Ivanov. It was 29-28, I believe. So it was close. We expected it to be close, but Marcin did a little bit more volume, managed to get it to the ground long enough to control Ivanov and win the fight. Kind of what we expected. With the real wild card would have been if Ivanov could have gotten a knockout. Next fight, Daun Jung versus Devin Clark. And this was a high probability pick for us for Daun Jung. He's great on the feet. He's very athletic. He's really tall. And Devin Clark, he was built like a tank, durable, powerful, fast kicks. But we had questioned his stamina and we had questioned his mental toughness. But we know he had wrestling. We know he's very powerful. And you've seen him come out really good and really bad, and he's inconsistent. So we went with Daun Jung. And it was a close fight. Somewhat close. It was not split decision, but Devin Clark did win on most of the judges' scorecards. 30-27, I think it was 29-28, 29-28. But he did win the fight, and he came out as Devin Clark could come out on his best day, and he looked great. And this is what I was worried about but he's so inconsistent, like it was hard to say that. And I thought even on his best day he couldn't beat Daun Jung, but apparently Daun Jung is a little inconsistent himself. He had gotten knocked out the last fight, and this fight he was controlled against the cage. Kind of fell into Devin Clark's game plan. He's got to kind of re-establish his own game plan a little more securely. So he's a guy to watch, as in maybe he's not as consistent as we think he is. But Devin Clark, if he comes out the way he fought now the next time, he's a guy to bet on, because he's definitely a guy, when he's looking this good, it looks great. So next fight, Derek Lewis, Sergey Spivak. We had picked Sergey Spivak with caveat. We had picked some parlays with a possibility of an upset for Derek Lewis by knockout, coincidentally. But Spivak came through, dominated the fight, got the fight to the ground really quick, and ended it very quickly. So dominant performance. Guy is big, he's powerful, he's strong in the clinch, he has great hip throws and trips, and that's exactly what he used against Derek Lewis. And once he got on top, he's heavy on top, and he's going for submissions. The guy's good, and I gotta admit, he's showed huge improvement in the last couple of years from before, and I think he's definitely worked out some kinks in his game. So he did dominate the fight. He won. We had picked him to win. So it wasn't all bad. We had one of our parlays. So I will go over what we hit and what we did not hit. Let me turn the camera around. Oh, sorry. There we go. what do we got here? Our 55%. This is where things don't go right if your 55% don't win. Then the long parlays will not win. Daun Jung, he lost. Jaka Saragi, he got stopped. He was an underdog, but he lost. Tara, minus 1200, he was a huge favorite, easily won his fight. Even though he did get caught in a guillotine right off the start, he was patient, and after about a minute, he got out of it and then took over the fight. Nakamura dominated his fight. Jung Lee, split decision. So these guys, this column did not work out because these two mistakes, and the long parlay did not work out because of these two mistakes. Any long parlay did not work out. But when we go to the 51%, the Jung Young Park won, Hang Sung Park won. This fight was canceled, and Spivak, we had Spivak on one, and we had another parlay where we swapped it in case he had gotten knockout. But so this parlay actually won. So we had recovered most of our money back from most of the units, depending on what you consider a unit. It could be $1, could be $10, could be $100. But regardless, if you're counting units, if you had done one version without the Lewis fight, this parlay would have gotten back about 80%, 85% of your units back. So most of it would have recovered. If you had included one where you had Lewis and a couple of other parlays, it would have expanded the number of parlays, and you would have gotten about 40% back. So we did get some of our money back, which was the key. Is if you're going to lose, then you don't want to be losing a lot of money. Next, the 50 plus. Kinoshita, we were almost there. I mean, Kinoshita, he ended up getting stopped. Young fighter. Tibura won. I had actually picked Ivanov in a previous parlay, so I just noted that I'd kind of changed my mind halfway through the week. I'd be like, nah, you know what? I can see Tibura just kind of grinding this one out, which is what happened. Duhu Choi, I marked it as a win. Technically, actually, he did win because he had a point deduction and he ended up getting a majority draw after that. So he actually won the fight. But regardless, majority draw means push, which means we didn't lose. It wasn't counted in the actual parlay. So a push means it's just a neutral, almost like a cancellation. So the bet online, this one did not work out. This one probably didn't work out the most. Win inside the distant decision or action. Kinoshita, we lost that one. This one here, Duhu Choi, it went to a decision, so the bet got canceled. Da Jung went to a decision, the bet got canceled. Jung Lee, he won by decision, the bet got canceled. Jaka lost. That's where we lost one of our units, because he ended up getting stopped. It didn't go to a decision, which we would have gotten our money back even if he lost. So unfortunately, that didn't work out so much, but it actually worked out pretty good because out of the 5 bets, 3 of them we got reimbursed. They didn't work out. 2 of them, unfortunately, got a stoppage against us. So that, of course, those units are lost. So there we go. That is Vegas 68, Lewis versus Spivak. That's what we did. We're going to do another video tomorrow for this UFC 283 coming up on Saturday, February 11th. So looking forward to seeing you there. Turn this camera around. So I'm setting up the next parlays. There is a lot of new fighters coming out of nowhere, a lot of dangerous fighters, a lot of guys that are really close in talent and ability. So I'm gonna set up probably a more complicated parlay structure just to give us a few more options of possibly upsets. Simply because some of the lines on these next fights on UFC 283 are so wide, and then some of the fights are going to be so close. I'm going to be setting up parlay structure where even if I think somebody's going to win, I might give an option to bet it a different way, because there's just so many fights that I see being like a very close decision or a split decision, or a fighter with a huge ability to knock people out might have an opportunity, and the lines are so far apart that it could very well be worth having that option of some of those fights going the other way. Just if you even hit one of them, the payout's going to be huge when you add that into a parlay. So I'm going to figure out how to structure it where it's not too crazy, where we have too many parlays, but at the same time maybe cherry pick the ones that have such a huge upside to it that we might add a couple of those and see if we can knock one out of the park. All right. Well, hopefully get back to you by tomorrow with UFC 283. All right. See ya.